I find that when agents start to ask questions about, what platforms to be on and what time of day should I post and what's the best type of content, like you're opening Pandora's box, and you quickly realize it's not just like one or two things. It's kind of a whole process. But I also believe that as an agent, you shouldn't be spending all of your time on Facebook or anywhere on social media. You are a real estate professional. So how can you make the most of your time and avoid the time suck and just be really efficient and be really intentional?
You're listening to Elevate, the official podcast of Elite Agent for real estate industry sales professionals, property managers, and leaders. With thanks to our partner Connect Now, Elevate brings you the best tools, thinking, and strategies to elevate your results. To get access to all of Elite Agent's premium resources, including a detailed episode guide for this podcast, visit joineliteagent.com. And for more information about how Connect Now can make moving easier on your clients, visit connectnow.com.au. Here is your host, Samantha McLean.
Welcome to another episode of the Elevate podcast, where we delve into some of the most interesting minds in business and in real estate for the very best tips and strategies for you to implement to elevate your business. I'm Samantha McLean, editor of Elite Agent and host of today's show. My guest on today's show is someone that you're probably all going to know pretty well, and that's social media expert Katie Lance. Named as one of the most influential people in real estate by Inman News, Katie works with agents to help them get smarter about how to use social media, and she actually has a book called Get Social Smart. So Katie, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
I've seen you on stage at Inman a few times, like, when in the days when we were allowed to travel.
Right.
I sort of feel like, I've watched so many of your videos and seen you on stage a few times. So very, very excited to have you on the Elevate podcast today. How are things in the US at the moment with the speaking circuit? Are you finally getting back out there and seeing people again?
A little bit. I think everyone is sort of kind of dipping their toe into the water, depending on their own comfort level, and depending on just their own situation with their family and health and whatnot. So I have started to a little bit. I've been a little, just apprehensive. I think this whole year and a half has been just a crazy time for most people. And so I've done my first in-person event that was kind of emotional to be in front of a big crowd of people. And I will be speaking at Inman in Las Vegas in October. So I'm kind of slowly starting to get out there. I know some other speakers are, gangbusters and ready to go. So, I'm just trying to take it step by step. I love the virtual world. It's certainly not the same. Zooming is not the same as being in person. But I will say there's a lot that you can accomplish through through virtual learning. I think that's been such a huge takeaway for me of, just the power of technology. It's so efficient as well. So, but we're doing pretty well. So
it's amazing. And I mean, look, we're dying to get on a plane and come back over again as soon as we can. And what you say is pretty interesting, because this last year and a half has been a time when agents have needed to, more than ever, get their message out there through different means other than face-to-face. What are some of the common themes that you've been talking to agents about this year?
There's been a lot. I would say, one thing has definitely been with, different stages of lockdown and the United States has gone through different stages depending on what part of the country you live in. And but I think universally, this idea of virtual open houses has been just a huge conversation where agents and brokers can, show houses virtually, either through Facebook Live or through Instagram Live, through Zoom. I remember early on in the pandemic, when zero open houses were allowed here in the US, agents couldn't even go into homes, and so they were literally in their own home office doing a Zoom, screen sharing photos of the home. And it was just, and it worked. I mean, so I think the message is that, like I said, I think technology, I think there's a lot of opportunities with that. And we're still seeing, even though things are definitely opened up more here, I think what we saw is that a lot of, customers and clients, they like the fact that there weren't 100 people going through their home. And so I don't think that that's going away anytime soon. I think that's, that's a huge thing that, just like I said, the virtual open houses or the virtual showings, so to speak, And then the other big thing would be video. I know video is not a new conversation by any means, but I think one thing we saw is more and more agents, really understanding the importance of getting on camera and, not just talking about listings, but sharing really helpful information and sharing tips and valuable information about real estate, about what's really happening in the market, about, supporting local businesses. And it's been exciting to see a lot of agents kind of come out of their shell and create some more video content, which can be used across multiple platforms, which I think is great.
Yeah, and they're the real winners, aren't they? The people that have been actually sharing helpful stuff and I've called it a few times lately the Uber of information, like being the person that can actually deliver information about the community. Because I think what happened here, and it might have been similar for you guys as well, is that everyone either went really quiet or started getting really noisy, probably for the wrong reasons.
Right, yes.
Yeah, but where do you think the happy medium is for agents in terms of providing content about the community?
I mean, I always think that that's such a valuable thing that agents, can bring to the community. I mean, whether maybe you're new to real estate and you aren't working with a lot of clients and you're trying to get your name out there, or maybe you are more established. I think one of the things we saw over this last, 18, 19 months is that, I'm sure you're experiencing this where you're at. I know we are. And that is so many small businesses are just really hurting, the locally owned restaurants and your favorite, hair salons and just all those small businesses. Unfortunately, a lot of them have gone out of business, but what a great opportunity as an agent or broker to reach out and say, hi, let me introduce myself. And I would love to feature you, whether it's through a Zoom, whether it's through a Facebook Live, and just kind of elevating folks in your local community. It's really a win-win. You're building a great relationship with that business owner and you're providing something really valuable to your audience. And then 9 times out of 10, that business owner shares that with their audience. So, it's not necessarily a new concept, but I think we saw that even more, over the last year and a half. And I hope that doesn't go away because I just think agents are like the heartbeat of communities.
Yeah. So I'm excited to announce that you'll be sharing your expertise as part of our Transform program, which starts in a couple of weeks. And during that event, you'll be focusing primarily on the big one, which is Facebook. Exactly how important do you think Facebook is as part of a social media strategy for agents?
I think Facebook is still important. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about Facebook. It's been around for quite some time. There are nearly 3 billion, worldwide users on Facebook. And I do think over the last year and a half that a lot of people have kind of backed away from Facebook a little bit. And I think partially was, there's just a lot going on in the world, from the pandemic to just a lot of social issues and just, there was just a lot. And I think a lot of folks felt like, I'm going to take kind of a little bit of a step back. And that's why we saw folks, really kind of glomming onto other platforms like Instagram and YouTube and things like that. However, I still think there is definitely a place for Facebook. And I think what's unique about Facebook is, generally speaking, that's the primary platform still for a lot of people. That's where they connect with their family. That's where they connect with their friends. And I think for real estate, I think there's really kind of 2 big opportunities with Facebook. It's the personal piece of it, where you're keeping in touch with people and you see when, your clients just had a baby or they just, they had a job promotion or the happy news, right? And you can comment and you can connect and you can stay in touch. For a lot of agents, it's really hard to keep in touch with people over the course of time. And so I think Facebook is still one of the best platforms for doing that. And then, the business piece of it, I think when done right, agents who are providing really great content, agents who are putting out informative, educational content, community content, that really helps to grow their business. And people see that, that's a great way to attract business, not necessarily chase leads on Facebook. So I think there's still a lot of opportunities. There's also Facebook groups, which I think are hugely, underrated in a big, big way. And, groups can be a great way to bring communities together. So I'm excited to be presenting. There's a lot to talk about with Facebook.
Absolutely. Let's clear one thing up before we kick off, though. There's still a lot of agents out there who are wondering whether they should have a personal profile for business, like, oh my God, I'm really going to annoy my family if I share real estate content. My family and friends on there, they're going to, hate me for being a real estate agent. Or should I have a business page? How do you feel about the difference between a personal profile and a business page in real estate?
I think they're both important, and I think an agent should have both. They're a little bit like apples and oranges. So your personal profile, nobody wants to be friends with somebody who's just spamming them, right? And so we don't want to use the personal profile to just say, hey, look at me, I've got another house sold, another one on the market, right? We don't want to do that. But what I really believe in with the personal profile is it's the 80-20 rule, or 80% of what you talk about should be personal. It doesn't have to be every moment of your life, but things that you're passionate about, things that are important to you, just personal interests, maybe organizations that you're a part of, whatever it might be. That other 20% can certainly be business related. And a lot of times it's content you might share from your business page. That's why it's important to have a business page. Your business page may not get a ton of traction. Right now with business pages, we're not seeing a ton of likes and comments and engagement. That's just part of the Facebook algorithm, but it's still an important piece. It's like your website, right? Your website's an important piece, just like your Facebook business page. People are at a place where they Google you, they want to see what you're all about, and it's one more level in your credibility. So anything business related, I think, should always go on the business page. And then from time to time, you can share a post or two from your business page to your personal profile, as long as that's not all you're talking about on your personal profile, right? And then just other things like, for example, on your personal profile, your name should be your name. Oftentimes, I see this all the time where it's like Jane Smith, Realtor. It's like, Realtor's not your last name. Okay. You haven't fooled me. So it's important to have those two distinctions. And sometimes you'll be friends on your personal profile with some of your clients. Not everybody. We don't want to be friends with everybody, but that's a great way to just keep in touch with people and build relationships and wish people a happy birthday and that personal piece, which is so important in real estate.
Well, the other thing too is, I think, you mentioned people putting real estate agent in their name, and I mean that's funny, but it's almost like if someone connects to you with real estate in their name or property manager in their name, which some people do here, it's almost like, oh my God, I am immediately going to be sold to. It's that
right.
you immediately feel that from just from looking at their names.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Get Social Smart, which is the book that you wrote. What inspired you to write that book?
Well, that's a great question. I've been teaching and speaking to real estate agents for quite some time, more than a decade. And I just really found when it came to really putting together a social media strategy that for most agents, they need more than a 2-minute video. You need more than an Instagram story or a quick blog post. Anytime you're going to learn something, it takes a little bit more time, right? And thought, and there's a process to it. I find that when agents start to ask questions about, what platforms to be on and what time of day should I post and what's the best type of content, like you're opening Pandora's box, and you quickly realize it's not just like one or two things. It's kind of a whole process. But I also believe that as an agent, you shouldn't be spending all of your time on Facebook or anywhere on social media. You are a real estate professional. So how can you make the most of your time and avoid the time suck and just be really efficient and be really intentional? So that's kind of what inspired me. And that's a lot of what the book is all about. It's, kind of I guess an ultimate guidebook where you could open it up. You could read it from start to finish, but you don't have to. If you just want to go right to the Facebook section or the, Instagram section or whatever, whatever you'd like, you could do that. But yeah, that was kind of the inspiration around it. Is just, how do we get smarter about what we're doing with social media to build our business?
That's a great inspiration, actually. And I think this is probably pretty universal, but I really like that you said social media is just a part of what you do and part of an attraction strategy rather than being, don't be scrolling all day. Because a lot of agents will say, oh, I want to do social media well, but I just don't have the time. Do you hear that a lot as well? And what do you say to that?
All the time. Yes, that's probably one of the top 3 things I hear is, I just don't have time, or I wish I had time. And, I guess there's a couple things. I always say, and this might be a little tough love, but I feel like we make time for things that are important, right? And so a lot of times when I hear an agent say that is it's a lot of times because they haven't made it a priority, or they are saying yes to everything. And we can't be all things to all people, we can't just say yes to everything. So sometimes part of that is some business lessons and some just boundaries over who we want to work with, who we may not want to work with, what we want to do, how we want to run our business. And then social media can be a part of that. And so one of the tips I always give, I talked about this in my book, is this idea of just time blocking, just the idea of setting aside some time on a daily, a weekly, and even a monthly basis where you're going to either post content or create some content or schedule some content. But if it's not on your calendar, a lot of times it just doesn't happen. At least that's how I am. If it's not on the calendar, a lot of times it's not going to happen. So it's kind of taking back control of your time. I don't think it has to take a whole lot of time. I recommend at least 10 or 15 minutes a day where you can just focus on just connecting with a few people. I love the idea of Focus 5, where you open up your phone and you think to yourself, okay, are there 5 people that I can connect with today? Like, comment, interact with, just on a daily basis. And then once a week, set aside 20 or 30 minutes to post some content or schedule some content. And then, once a month or so, I'm a huge believer in batching content. I feel like if I'm going to sit down, do my hair and makeup and record one video, I might as well record like 4 or 5. So,
yep.
You can be a lot more efficient that way and kind of create some content, but it's all about just integrating it into what you're already doing. And anytime you add in a new habit, it just takes a little bit of time. So you have to give yourself some grace too.
to get it moving. Yeah. Well, yeah. I love your YouTube channel. It's so bright and colorful, and, it just really answers questions that are at the heart of what everyone's thinking. How do you turn that around with agents and get them to be inspired to do a similar thing? Like how do you get the ideas for the content that you create on video?
Another really good question. You're good at this. You've done this a few times, right?
Just once or twice. Yeah.
Yeah, I figured, right? So I think a couple things, one of the things that I'm a really big believer in is that as much as I love social media is rented ground. We don't own it, right? And so I really am a big believer of taking a step back and saying, is there some content that you can create, that you own, that goes with you wherever you go, right? And so that was kind of the inspiration when I started our YouTube channel 5 years ago. I had posted videos periodically on YouTube, but it wasn't really consistent. And once I decided, you know what, I'm going to create a show. We're going to create the Get Social Smart show. We're going to make it a priority. We're going to schedule some time to do this. And it's like a snowball. It just kind of started, rolling down the hill. And what's exciting about that is, first of all, it takes time, right? Once you publish videos, it's not like all of a sudden you're going to get, 12 new leads tomorrow. It takes time. And so you have to be patient with that. But the value in that is that now you've got content, or now, for me personally, now I've got content that I can put up on YouTube. I could share on Facebook. I could create an Instagram story about it. I could take a clip out, make an Instagram reel. I could get it transcribed and get it turned into a blog post. And now it goes back to what I talked about earlier, working smarter, not just harder, right? So instead of always like, oh my gosh, what am I going to post? I got to reinvent the wheel. Just kind of taking a step back and going, okay, let's look at the bigger picture. You don't own social media. So is there a content strategy that we could talk about, we could create, where that content is going to get published in a number of different platforms? You don't have to be everywhere, but maybe there's a couple that you enjoy, that your clients are on. And, and then that kind of, we kind of break it down that way. I think the other thing is that some of the agents and brokers that we've worked with, it's so awesome to be able to see the ones who've implemented the strategy, to see the business that they're getting from that, to see that they are attracting business through that, because people are reaching out saying, okay, I'm moving from here to here, and I Googled and you were the first one that came up, and I have binge watched your last 24 videos, and, not can we work together, but it's like, we have to work together. And those are the best leads. So I think that's part of it, is kind of understanding that bigger picture. And then your other question about content, I always tell agents, think about the questions you get asked all the time, right? The questions that come up in email and phone conversations. I would even say make a list of clients and prospects that you've worked with. Considering the fact you're in lockdown, there's probably a lot of questions around that. How can I show my house safely? Should I actually sell right now, or should I wait till after the pandemic? Like, there's all these questions that come up time and time again. Well, if you get asked once or twice, that's a great piece of content, right? So start making a note of that. And I would also say too, in addition to stuff that's timely, consider creating some content that's evergreen or timeless. So things like who pays for what, or how do you find a realtor, or what are the biggest questions I should ask, when I'm moving, or whatever it might be. Those type of things are fairly timeless, and those are great pieces of content too. So long answer to your question, but
it's a fabulous answer actually. And so just following on from that, a lot of agents will then say, "Oh, but I hate watching myself on video." And
yes.
And while I'm quite used to this Q&A sort of interviewer type role, I was the same until my coach said to me, "All right, I challenge you to go live on Facebook with a live video every day for 30 days." Which completely desensitized me to hitting that Facebook Live button. It was sort of like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. But but you must get questions from your clients and people in the academy as well that they'll probably say, "But I don't like the way that I look or sound on video." And
Yeah.
And we both know that you've really got to get over that now. So what do you say to them to give them a bit of confidence to get up and running?
Well, that is a very common thing. I hear that from quite a lot of people. I will say, I feel like during this whole time of lockdown and the pandemic, I think some people have gotten a little bit better with it. And maybe it's because we've been forced to be on FaceTime and Zoom, and we've been kind of forced to use some of these, tools, especially even if it's not for business, even if it's just for family. I mean, I can't tell you how many Zoom calls I did with family over the last, year and a half. So I think that's the good news. I think some people are getting a little bit more comfortable with it. The other thing I would say though, and I will never forget this. I had a good friend of mine a few years ago, very lovingly remind me. She was like, "Katie, that's how you look."
Yeah.
And that's how you sound. So you got to get over it. So I lovingly try to tell people the same thing. But to your point, it is challenging. And one of the ways to get over it, or to, I don't even know if you ever completely get over it, but one of the ways to get better is to do kind of what you just said, 30 Facebook Lives in 30 days. The more you can get on camera, and even if it's just video that you're sending one-to-one. So just give you a quick example. If you're really, really kind of like, "Oh, I just really can't get over it," think about, is there a video you could send one person? Maybe it's the client you're working with. And instead of sending a little email today, you take out your phone and you record a 20-second video that says like, "Hi, Jane, I just wanted to reach out. I just want to let you know, I'm so happy to work with you and your family. I know there's a lot going on. I'm going to send you that information we talked about later today through email, but I just want to send you a quick video," right? That doesn't go to her Facebook. You can text that video. And when you start to do that, and you start to kind of just think about, maybe I could send a video instead of just a text, or instead of an email, what will boost your confidence is the response that you'll get. When Jane texts you back and she's like, "Oh my gosh, that was so nice of you," and you can do that for someone's birthday. We see it's people's birthday on Facebook, and you could be one of the 50 people that writes on their wall, "Happy birthday," smiley face, or you could do a quick video and send it through Facebook Messenger. It doesn't have to be public. So that would be just a couple things that kind of start getting over that hump, because once you do that, once you start seeing yourself on camera, you will quickly teach yourself, "Gosh, this is a little bit more of a flattering angle if I hold it this way versus this way," or, when I'm outside, I should, face this way. So
yeah,
we've all had videos
holding
like
it up
that.
really high. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not from down below. Yeah.
I've done that. I won't FaceTime anyone if I have to hold.
Exactly. Exactly. Camera angles are key.
Absolutely. And light. I think light as well.
Yes, sure.
In watching some of your YouTube videos, you often talk about tools of the trade and things like that. So can I ask you at the moment, what are your favorite little tech tools, or what are your favorite apps on your phone that you've been, loving using?
Yeah, I this is probably not a new tool by any means, but I absolutely love Canva. I've been a Canva user, which is, I believe, an Australian-based company. I think they were
Yep, Aussie
started in
company.
Australia. Yeah,
Yep,
okay.
yep.
I mean, I have been. I feel like I was probably one of their original users. I've used that product forever, and it's only gotten better. I'm not affiliated with them by any means, but we teach it a lot because agents use it a lot to create graphics. It's a really great program. I love that there's thousands of templates and photos and all these different graphics. Of course, there's the free version, there's the paid version, and what I particularly like about Canva these days, they've actually introduced a video option with Canva, which, not to sound corny, but I really think it's a game changer. I mean, it's so awesome. You can, if you're on a computer, if you're on your laptop and you've got a camera on your computer, you can open it up. It doesn't have to be a laptop, it could just be a computer with a camera. Open up Canva, and then there's like a video section. You could just record the video right within Canva. If you don't like it, you can delete it, but you can record it right within Canva. You can do like simple editing. You can add graphics all within Canva, which is amazing. So if that has kind of held you back as far as like, oh, like how do I get the video to my computer, and do I have to edit it and all this, like super simple, which is great. So been using Canva a lot, which is a lot of fun. You can also use it for reels and things like that. The other app I've been using a lot is Video Shop. If you go into the App Store, either iPhone or Android, it's just Video Shop app. It's a free app. There's also a paid version. I do work with a video editor for a lot of our videos, but there are some videos, especially my reels, that I like to edit myself. I like to kind of get in there and play around with video. I like to pretend like I'm a video editor. I'm not really a video editor, but I like to play around with it.
You and me both.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Video Shop's great if you want to add your logo, or if you want to trim a clip, or you want to speed it up, or you want to, just do some simple editing. So I would say those are two of my probably, go-tos. And of course, there's Facebook has a whole treasure trove of apps that I use all the time. Facebook Business Suite, Facebook Messenger, the regular Facebook app, Instagram, of course. So,
yeah.
But there's so many.
While we're talking about favorites, can you tell me what your favorite platform and thing to do is? Like, we recently interviewed Chelsea Peitz, and she said that she just loves Instagram stories. Do you have a favorite, and why?
Gosh, that's a really good question too. I do love Instagram stories. I don't know if I really have a favorite. Honestly, probably these days my favorite, I guess, to go back to Facebook, I'm really loving, we have a private Facebook group, and we have that for our Academy members. And I think with Facebook, like I said earlier, there's like all this noise out there and, politics and whatnot. And it's just been really nice to be able to not just be a part of a group, but to run a group and to see a community build and people help each other, and just like the culture that happens inside of a Facebook group. It's such a positive thing. So honestly, that's probably my favorite place. I mean, I love Instagram, don't get me wrong. Chelsea knows this. Yeah. But just because I know I'll be speaking about, Facebook at your event, I'm just, that's probably one of my favorite places these days is our own Facebook group. So.
Well, Katie, it's been amazing getting to know you a bit today. And again, thank you for participating in Transform this year. We are super, super, super looking forward to that. And we're going to drop a bunch of links in the show notes for this podcast, because you've got a number of great resources on your website. Even, I think I mentioned I did a 30-day Facebook Live challenge, but you've actually got 30 Facebook Live ideas for real estate agents. Yeah. So we're going to drop that link and a few others. If there was one tip that you'd like to leave everyone with today, or one final piece of advice, what would it be?
I think it's really easy when it comes to social media or content creation or video content to really get overwhelmed and to think, well, that all sounds great, but I'm really busy right now. So next week I'll get started, or I don't know if this is for me, or I just think it's really easy to kind of suffer from analysis paralysis when it comes to a lot of this stuff. And so I guess my big piece of advice to anyone listening, and I don't know who needs to hear this, but I would imagine maybe one of your listeners needs to hear this. And that is, done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. It's better to just put something out there. It may not be, the best piece of content you've ever created in your whole life, but it's all good. That's how we get better. That's how we improve. We make baby steps. And really the time is now. If you want to hit the goals you want to hit next year in 2022, it starts right now. It starts with just taking out your phone and going, okay, I'm going to send one video to somebody. Hey, send a video to me, right? Say, hey, I saw you on this podcast. Like it just starts there. So done is better than perfect.
Yeah, that's really great advice. And my final piece of advice to everyone is to follow Katie Lance on YouTube because it's amazing and fantastic.
Thank you. I so appreciate that.
Well, that's it for today. We'll see you again in late October, early November, and super looking forward to it. Katie Lance, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Elevate podcast, with thanks to connectnow.com.au. Don't forget to get access to all of Elite Agent's premium resources, including a detailed episode guide for this podcast. Visit joineliteagent.com.